Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing the Finally Fall book tag. Alright guys, so admittedly I don't do very many book tags. However, I have done the Finally Fall book tag every year since starting BookTube. So I will leave all of my past Finally Fall tags down in the description below. But if you're unfamiliar with this tag, it is essentially just sharing books that give you all of the fall vibes. So books with a vivid setting, books that are creepy and gothic, and also just talking about some of the fall things I like to do in my personal life, like my favorite fall drink, etc. So I am very excited to do this tag and share some of my favorite books with you guys. Now, if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit that notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram, Goodreads, and Patreon, all linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's get into the tag questions. And the first prompt is, name a book with a vivid setting. And I immediately thought of The Woods Are Always Watching. This book is set in a national park, and it creeped me out. So if you're unfamiliar with this story, we are following these two girls that are about to graduate high school, and they are best friends, but they're also kind of outcasts. And tensions are starting to brew because one of them is going to a university that is nowhere near where they grew up, so they're kind of grappling with that. So they decide to go on a 3-day hike, kind of as a final trip before one leaves for college. And when they get there, they find out that there are more than bears lurking in these woods. There are some serious predators, and they are out for blood. And it goes from there. Once again, so unbelievably creepy, and I feel like the wood setting really enhanced that, because these girls are completely isolated in these woods, and it's so unbelievably good. So definitely check trigger warnings. There is some dark stuff that happens, but this is a very quick read, and I highly recommend. And the next prompt is, nature is beautiful but also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written but also deals with heavy topics. Anytime you mention heavy topics, I immediately think of the Boys of Tommen series. I have never ugly cried so much in a series as I did with this one. It is my favorite overall read of the year. I will still say Reign of Shadows and Endings is my favorite fantasy romance read of the year, but this series is phenomenal. I will also say book 7 is probably my least favorite out of all of the books so far. I'm sorry, book 5 is my least favorite out of all the books so far, but the first 4 are so unbelievably good. But if you're unfamiliar with the Boys of Tommen series, we're essentially in the first 2 books following Johnny and Shannon. Johnny is part of this family that is really going through it. They're very impoverished. The mother is very submissive to the father, who is both physically and emotionally abusive, and also an alcoholic. So Shannon is really being picked on at school, so her mother finally advocates for her and gets her to go to Tommen University. And on the first day at her new school, Shannon ends up getting hit in the head with a rugby ball and wakes up with Johnny Kavanaugh standing over her. He is the popular guy at this school. He's the head of the rugby team, and it is their romance. But oh my word, this series is unlike any series I've ever read. It deals with such tough topics, and once again, highly recommend checking triggers. While I do love Johnny and Shannon, the second 2 books, Saving Six and Redeeming Six, follow Joey and Aoife, and they might be my favorite couple of all time. I live for them. They're amazing. So if you're looking for a book that will make you cry, please pick up the Boys of Tommen series. Okay, so this next one is fall means back to school season. Name a nonfiction book that taught you something new. So I normally say either The Glass Castle or Educated for this answer. However, I'm actually going to pick a show. However, the show is based on a book. I just haven't gotten around to reading the book yet. But I recently binged The Maid on Netflix. Wow, that series is so unbelievably good. I binged the entire thing in a day, and I still can't stop thinking about it. It's essentially following this woman who's in an emotionally abusive relationship, and she's trying to save her daughter, and it's all of the steps she has to take to be able to do that, because she has no support from her family or anyone around her. And I loved it. So I do want to pick up the book very soon. If you've read the book, let me know. Did you prefer the show or the book? I typically prefer the books to shows. However, I just can't see anything beating that show. But overall, that is one of my new obsessions, so highly recommend. Next up is, in order to stay warm, it is nice to spend time with the people you love. Name a fictional household or friend group that you would like to be a part of. And for this, I always say The Inner Circle, and I am standing by that. I would give anything, absolutely anything, to be part of the Inner Circle from ACOTAR. If you are unfamiliar with A Court of Thorns and Roses, it is one of the best fantasy romances of all time. We are following Farah, who is a human that is living on the border of the Fae and human lands. One day she goes out hunting for food and she kills a Fae, mistaking it for a wolf, and because of this, she is forced to be the ward of the High Lord of the Spring Court, and the story goes from there. It is so good. A Court of Mist and Fury is one of my favorite books of all time. So I stand by that. I would give anything to be part of the Inner Circle. Anything. But another group I would love to be part of is the group from Fourth Wing. Honestly, I just want to be able to ride Terran because he's awesome and I just want a dragon. So I would also love to be part of the college in Fourth Wing. If you are unfamiliar with Fourth Wing, it is incredibly popular, but we are following Violet Sorrengail, and she grew up her entire life believing that she would become a scribe. However, when she comes of age, her mother tells her that instead of becoming a scribe, which is very safe, she is instead going to have to go to this college to compete to become a dragon rider and hopefully survive long enough to be able to ride a dragon and gain magical powers. And it goes from there. And I absolutely loved it. I also really enjoyed Iron Flame, and I cannot wait for the sequel to release next year. And the next prompt is The Nights Are Getting Darker, share a dark and creepy read. So I immediately thought of Nocticadia by Carrie Lake. I recently read this book. I absolutely loved it. And if you were to tell me a book about a dark parasitic worm would be one of my favorite reads of the year, I would not have believed you. But here we are. The gothic vibes in this book are perfection. It also has a student-teacher trope. It is just so good. So the story is following a girl, I honestly forget her name, but her mother ends up passing away from a mysterious illness. So she is determined to figure out what caused her mother to succumb to this. So as she gets older, she ends up being accepted to this university where she ends up being instructed by this professor who is also studying this parasite and is harboring some very interesting secrets. And together they both are studying this parasite while also having a bit of a forbidden romance, and it goes from there. And there are so many secrets that are uncovered, and once again, like I said, gothic vibes, perfection. It felt like dark academia, but also the romance was so forbidden and so good, and the spice was excellent, and everything about this I loved. It also had a twist ending that I was not expecting. Highly, highly recommend. Please, if you have not read this, you need to. And next up is The Nights Are Getting Colder, name a short, heartwarming read. So I did fail at finding a short, heartwarming read, but I did pick Wolfsong by TJ Klune, and this is definitely heartwarming. It's not necessarily super short, it's not novella length, but the romance in this is so good. It is also perfect for this time of year. It is a werewolf romance. So in this story, we are following Ox, and Ox has been told his entire life he is not going to get shit out of life, and he's lived not a miserable life, but he's been pretty lonely. He's really close to his mom and a few select friends. And one day, when he's a teenager, he is walking home from the garage where he works, and he meets Joe. Joe is this little boy who immediately starts talking to Ox about how he smells like sunshine and rainbows and candy canes, and is just absolutely infatuated with Ox and ends up taking him to his house to meet his family. That is where Ox discovers that Joe's family is actually a pack of werewolves, and Joe is going to be the next alpha werewolf. So they slowly end up growing up together. It is an romance, but unfortunately, tragedy strikes when Joe, I believe, is around 20 years old, and they have to separate, and then it goes from there. But I adore this book so much. It has a whole found family feel, and also the romance, like I said, is so good. Highly, highly recommend. And the next prompt is Fall returns every year. Name an old favorite that you'd love to return to. So I immediately picked a book for this. However, I'm not exactly sure if it fits this prompt because it's not necessarily a favorite. I did end up rating it 4.5 stars. I just really want to reread Lady of Darkness by Melissa K. Roerich before the third book in the Legacy series releases. And as many of you know, I am absolutely obsessed with the Legacy series. And unfortunately, I wasn't really able to appreciate the crossover in book 2 because I hadn't finished the entire Lady of Darkness series. So I am really hoping I can finish the entire series before the third book in the Legacy series releases. If you're unfamiliar with the Lady of Darkness series, we are following Scarlet, and she, along with her two sisters, were adopted by the Assassin Lord and were trained in how to be excellent killers. And Scarlet is harboring revenge against the Fae Fire Prince, to which the Assassin Lord knows his whereabouts and is kind of holding them above Scarlet's head in order to control her. While all this is also going on, there are children that are going missing in another kingdom, and Scarlet kind of gets pulled into that whole mystery, and it goes from there. And once again, I did really enjoy the first book in the Lady of Darkness series. There just was no audiobook for book 2 when I read it, so I'm definitely going to be diving back into that series soon. And next up is fall is the perfect time for cozy reading nights. Share your favorite cozy reading accessories. So I have a few for this. One of them is cozy blankets. I'm obsessed with blankets specifically for fall. I'm actually staring at 2 of them right next to my camera. We have so many blankets in this house for every season. It's actually insane. But I have about 7 like spooky time blankets, and then I have like 4 or 5 autumnal blankets, and they're just scattered throughout my house. So when I'm reading, I normally just make like a blanket pile on my couch and just read that way. So that's one. Also, I absolutely love really soft pajamas. So I feel like most people, that's super cozy. And then me and my husband have recently gotten into mulled wine. So we went to a winery that was pretty close to our house, and they actually had this hot wine that they had it in a crock pot actually, and with a bunch of spices, and it was so good. So we've been doing that at home, and that just really reminds me of fall. It also has my entire house smelling like a fall candle, which I love. And finally, probably my favorite like fall treat, anything pumpkin. Anything pumpkin. I literally, everything in our house right now is probably pumpkin flavored, much to my husband's disdain. He is not a pumpkin fan, but we have pumpkin coffee, pumpkin whipped cream, pumpkin cereal, pumpkin muffins. Just, I love pumpkin. It just really reminds me of the fall. So I guess those are some of my favorite cozy accessories. And last up is spread the autumn appreciation and tag some people. So if you're seeing this video, consider yourself tagged, but if I'm gonna actually tag people specifically, I have to think of my friends that do tag videos. So April from Happily Ever April, I'm pretty sure she does tags, Carrie from Booked for Romance, Maggie from Maggie's Books and Stuff, Tori from Novel Life. I know she doesn't do very many tags, but I think she's done this tag in the past. And I know I'm forgetting people, but once again, if you're seeing this, consider yourself tagged. And thank you guys so much for watching. Alright guys, that is it for my Finally Fall tag video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know down in the comments below what is your absolute favorite fall read. And I'd like to say a special thank you to my Paladin protectors, Amanda, Erin, Leslie, Kat, and Lotta. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel. And I said this already, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. And if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye!